G'day, beloved brothers and sisters. This is Mark Mudri from Adelaide in part 2 of a 4-part special series for the wonderful Full Gospel Business Australia. The title of this talk is Integrating Faith and Work. A myth, a memory, or a maybe? The grace, the love, and the sense of humour of God is shown in the fact that He can take a migrant kid like me, who at the age of 21 is diagnosed with an incurable mental illness, heal me and give me favour in the legal profession, so that 30 years later I can be testifying of His greatness to His ambassadors in the earth. I'm absolutely convinced of the Lord's unconditional personal love towards every one of us, and His desire to make something beautiful out of our lives if we would only let Him. From a position of the assurance of our Heavenly Daddy's love, He's raising up and equipping in the earth. He's raising up and equipping in the earth modern day equivalents of Esther, Moses, Aaron, Daniel, Joseph, David, Joshua, Gideon, Barnabas, Lydia, Apollos, Priscilla, Aquila, Cornelius, and of course, Zenos the lawyer, to perform exploits which He has pre-prepared for you before the foundation of the world. Just as He redeems solitary lives and families, I'm convinced that He desires to redeem entire cities and nations. Think of Jerusalem as Jesus weeps over it, or Nineveh, on which the Father shows such compassion that He perplexes His prophet Jonah. The Father doesn't need a large number, just a few large hearts to change a city and a nation. The great Roman Empire has disappeared a long time ago, but they are still talking about the Jewish carpenter who lived 2,000 years ago and his marketplace mates. It's not a theological or an academic talk. It's more like a witness statement with some observations that I hope will help you. We have an idea where we would like to be in terms of living a wholly integrated life. And that means not only honesty, that is very important, but integrity means a whole person, that we're the same person wherever we go. We may have different roles, but the values and the principles are wholly integrous. It comes from the word integer, meaning whole. But let's be real. Let's start where we are. Can you identify with any of these descriptions of a marketplace Christian? I'm running from work to home to church to my community activities, giving all that I have to each, but with a sinking feeling that I'm not meeting the expectations of anyone. When I began my work career, I had dreams of helping people, changing society, making a difference. Now, I'm so busy just trying to keep up with the spiraling demands on my time that I barely have the strength to survive, let alone change anything. I hear an uplifting sermon on Sunday and I purpose to live a life that pleases the Lord. But by Monday lunchtime, the phone calls, the snail mail, the email, and the blackmail have got to me, and I default into autopilot mode, hardly giving a thought to the one who loved me so much, He died for me. It is not that I don't believe in the Lord Jesus, it just seems that I bypass Him most of the time. I might walk with Him to work on Monday morning, but I seem to leave Him in the waiting room until Saturday night. But amazingly, such is His great love and patience for us that He continues to wait for us week in and week out. More and more I'm becoming one person at work and another at church and yet another at home. I can't switch off. Even during the night I'm working, I worry about the things that have gone wrong and the things that might go wrong. The taste of success seems fleeting, and real friendships, joy, and intimacy are just as elusive. I am doing good things, but duty and law have stolen my heart and crowded out grace and my first love. So what qualifies me to give this talk on integrating faith and work? 3 things. The first is that at different times in my life, the notion of integrating faith and work has been a myth, a memory, and a maybe. The other thing that qualifies me is that I'm a fellow struggler, just like you, trying to make sense of this seeming paradox, yet someone who has tasted enough of its joy to make me irreversibly committed to learn more. And thirdly, if lawyers can integrate their faith and their work, anyone can. Why do I call it a paradox? Well, the Bible teaches us the following kinds of things. Blessed are the peacemakers. Turn the other cheek. Walk the extra mile. Give him your coat as well. Love your enemies. Live at peace with all men. Make friends with your accuser on the way to court quickly. Pray unceasingly. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Who may ascend to the hill of the Lord? He who has clean hands and a pure heart. You shall have no other gods before me. Love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and your neighbour as yourself. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. As Christians in the marketplace, in an increasingly rights rather than responsibilities-orientated culture, such demands don't always sit well with our Lord's directions. It's important to bear in mind the relationship between the real and the ideal. A classic Bible scholar, Derek Prince, put it this way. There are 2 things, the actual and the ideal. To be mature is to see the ideal and live with the actual. To fail is to accept the actual and reject the ideal. But to accept only that which is ideal and refuse the actual is to be immature. Don't criticize the actual because you have seen the ideal. Don't reject the ideal because you see the actual. Maturity is to live with the actual, but hold to the ideal. That will need a bit more thinking on my part. It may be a paradox, but so what? The Christian faith is full of seeming paradoxes. For example, faith and works, faith and planning, grace and judgment, losing your life and living abundantly, God's sovereignty and man's responsibility, free will and predestination. So after 30 or so years of legal practice and serving as a chief of staff for a federal government senator, I confess that at times the dream has been more distant memory than a daily outworking. Many times the passion to make a difference and really help people has faded in the face of competing deadlines, demanding clients, the fear of missing something, the actuality of missing something, the tyranny of the timesheet, and the taunt of the mocking, accusing budget. However, in more recent times, living a whole integrated life has become at least a definite maybe. I've seen more and more not only of the possibility of faith and work merging, but beginning to believe that this is how it's meant to be. So let's just explore a little bit more about the possibilities. I might just go to some practical examples because this is good stuff, but let's go into some practicalities, and the FGBA is great at practicalities. So one of the ways we integrate our faith and work is to look at the interests of others and not only our own interests. And it's so exciting to see different ministries working together. Otherwise, it's like 7 neighbours with 7 lawnmowers. Duplication of resources, waste of resources, suspicion. But what if one guy made the lawn, everybody chipped in, and with the cost of the other 6 lawnmowers, we can do something beautiful in the community? It sounds simple, but it's quite profound. I've always tried to cooperate with the Lord to create an environment of grace for our staff in different roles. An environment of grace communicates you're more important than what you do. The opposite is the worldly concept. One that says that the eggs are more important than the goose, but don't let the goose suspect this. I believe that mothers are faced with many horrible dilemmas. One of them is that some have been previously told that they can work full-time, and then some are not at all. And it's my conviction is to adapt the workplace, especially in these times, so that mothers are not torn between work and home, and they can adjust their work hours to try and achieve both. One of my greatest joys has been to see the kids and knowing we have fought to allow them time with their mothers. One of the practical things we've adopted in the workplace is the when things go wrong policy. And everybody knows, how do we fix it? What can we learn? But how do you strengthen relationship? We once had a secretary that sent our documents to the opposition in a court case. And the natural thing would be to scold her. But we realized, I've made many mistakes. And so we rang the other side, we fixed it, they shredded the documents, we put in new procedures so that didn't happen again. But we got one of the other secretaries to take her out for lunch and bought her some flowers. She was valued when she wasn't performing. And that's how God values us. And it's out of that approval and the safety. And people will come and tell you about problems rather than trying to hide them as well. And when we know that we can't keep somebody on, help them get a job from a job. Give them time to go on interviews on your time, because it's a lot easier getting a job that way than if you've been unemployed. And I want to tell you, after my career in Parliament and references from world leaders literally and chiefs of staff, I couldn't get a job. I went to meetings and I didn't even have a card. And the Lord had to strip every sense of identity from me that was apart from Him. And now He's restored far more than I could ever imagine. And in these times when people are losing their jobs, losing their homes, living in fear, I'm glad that I got to go first. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the empathy and the compassion and also the strength and the peace to help them through that moment in every way that I can. Nurturing the next generation. I'll just mention this one and I'll come to a close. There are many disillusioned young people and young workers. If we can't find them a placement, at least we can share a cup of coffee, listen to them, encourage them, and pray with them. One of the new lawyers I mentored became a federal government senator, and I ended up working for her as a chief of staff. I think that Lord is just so cool and so funny at times. So I'm just going to come to an end and finish with this story. We were in Indonesia a few years ago at the World Prayer Assembly, and there was 100,000 of us worshipping at the same time of several hundred cities. And the mastermind behind this is a gentle, humble, gracious man. And when they were preparing, all of these people says, how can you put on such great events? How do you deal with the government? How can you put on such a glorious worship service in a country that is challenging? And he said, I'm not going to tell you. And they fired him for that. He said, please tell me, how do you accomplish such great things? I'm not going to tell you. But they pestered him, and just as they're about to fly off, he says, okay, I'm going to tell you. And out come the iPhones and the pads, and they're expecting to hear something so profound. They're ready. They're going to get the holy grail, the good oil. And he says, you ready? Yeah. Ready? 3 words. I make friends. One of the secrets of life. I make friends. And they were so disappointed. But that's the reality. All of life is about relationship with the Father, with others, and ourselves. And in one of my next talks, I'll give you some practical advice about that. So in conclusion, integrating faith and work is not a myth or a memory or a maybe. It's all 3. You choose. But choose carefully, because your choice conscious or otherwise, will significantly shape how you live and work. My hope is that we'll continue to challenge the myth, revive the memory, and explore the maybe. Thank you. And don't forget to click subscribe, share and like, and turn the little bell on, because there's many amazing people that will be giving their testimonies, and a couple already have. So check out John Alley and Jimmy Nino. You're going to love it. Thank you so much.